So it's time. Let's go over all the gear that I use to solo film with and then how I use it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the main camera, which is the camera that I'm filming on now. Is a Sony a6400. Now it shoots 4K video up to 30 frames per second and 1080p up to 120 frames per second, which you really can't tell that much difference in between 4K and 1080p whenever you're filming until you get into low light situations. 1080p is a little bit more grainy than 4K. The 1080p at 120 frames per second is real good slow motion shots. Y'all seen that in the Alabama film. If y'all watch the Alabama film, I got a lot of real slow motion shots on deer coming by the stand. Dad, when he shot that buck, I got it in 120 frames per second. It works awesome for B-roll, archery shots, you're out practicing, any slow motion shots I'll shoot in 1080p 120. Now, for the mics that I have set up, I used to have the Rode wireless mics, and they were still wireless, but they had the cable that would stretch in underneath my shirt and then had the mic clip on it. I got rid of those. They ran on 2 AAA batteries and they did good out to 80 yards, but I had to turn the mics on and everything else when I was filming and get everything ready. And then if my batteries died, I had to make sure that I had spare AAA batteries to be able to set up them mics. And it wasn't really good if I had, you know, a deer or turkey or anything coming in and I'm sitting there fiddling with mics. So the mic that I have now is the Rode Go-To mic that is hooked up onto the camera, wires in straight to the camera. When I turn the camera on, the mic is running and everything's good. As far as my lens, I have a Sony G lens on it right now. It's an 18-105, and I'll end up grading up that lens here soon because it does real good for B-roll and intros and stuff like that, and it shoots up tight at least to 50 yards, 45, 50 yards. But if I got a deer that's out at 100 yards or whatever and I want to get a good close-up shot on it, it just really can't quite get there. I need something about a 135 to 200 range is what I would like to have. And I don't use too many ND filters on it, which controls darkness and exposure and everything, but I'll use this ND filter for the kit. Whenever I'm out and it's really bright outside, it's an adjustable ND filter, so I can tone that so it don't look real blown out and white in the film and real bright. But if I don't have an ND filter, then I can just fix it in post. Now, as far as battery life on this camera, I can film all day with the original battery that it has. But whenever we got -3 temps outside this winter, my battery was shot. The camera was so cold that it wouldn't even shoot with the normal battery in it. I had to plug it up to a power source. So what I've done with that is I got power packs that's actually hooked up to the camera now off Amazon. It is a long power pack that you can get off Amazon and hook up to your phone. You can charge it with it, and it also charges the camera. And with it completely charged, I can take the battery out of the camera, running the mic and everything in 4K, and I can get 4 hours of film time continuously with that. Now, I don't leave this camera turned on all the time when I'm hunting, so I actually filmed with that power pack hooked up to it going on 3 days now. As far as my secondary angle cameras, I have GoPro Hero 7 and the GoPro Hero 8 that I just picked up. And I like these cameras because they're small, they're not intrusive. I can put them anywhere at any angle that I want with any bracket setup that I want, hook them up to a tree. I got a bow hook that I turn into the tree, and it's got the screws in, and I can twist this in here and I can get any shots that I want with them. They shoot in 4K, the same as my Sony a6400, and they also shoot in 1080p 120. I never use a 1080p 120 in these. I always shoot, I don't even really use 4K that much to try and conserve battery life. Usually with my mics or my small GoPro secondary angle cameras, I will shoot in 2.7K with those. As far as film life, battery life on these, I have gotten 40 minutes just on a regular camera, which is why I picked up this Refuel DigiFuel battery pack, and it's a rechargeable battery, and it just encases this GoPro like this. Your original battery comes out, so underneath here the battery's completely gone, and I'll just charge this up, slap the GoPro in here. It's completely waterproof, so I don't have to worry about anything messing it up, and then I'm good to film for 4 hours on 2.7K, which usually most of my hunts are 6 to 5 hours or 6 to 4 hours. If I'm going in for a long day, then I'll probably turn these cameras off and on a little bit, probably periodically. Every 2 hours I'll turn it on, every hour, you know, or so. I'll just turn this camera on, turn it off, and try to conserve battery life that way. Now, as far as my setups is what I use for blinds or anything else like that, right now I got a King Joy tripod that I'll use whenever I'm turkey hunting on the ground, or I'm in a blind, deer hunting in a blind. That's what I used all this season. I picked it up off of Amazon. It's a decent tripod. It's not really the most sturdy thing, so I'll probably upgrade to that, upgrade to something different and more robust here before long, but it does good. I noticed whenever I was in the blind that whenever I was filming, if my heart was pumping or if I was a little shaky or whatever when the deer comes in, like we all do, then it kind of showed in the footage a little bit, and I had to fix it in post. Now, for my tree stands, I use the 4th Arrow stiff arm. And with this stiff arm, I used to have the, I think it was the Muddy Outfitter kit, but with this stiff arm, it is so much easier to get this thing in the stand versus that big giant stiff arm that I had, and I sold it. But the stiff arm, you had to sit there and manually just crank and crank and crank and turn and getting that thing up there and clinking around. By the time that I got everything set up, I was wore plumb out carrying all that stuff and having to turn it and get it adjusted. But with this stiff arm, it fits in my pack nice. I think it weighs a total of a pound, 2 pounds, I believe. And I can just hook this up to the stand and strap it in, and then all I gotta do is slap my stiff arm in there, and then to adjust it, I'll turn this knob on the side out, and then I can adjust this any way that I want. And it's so much easier to deal with than having to sit there and crank on a stiff arm like the other one that I had. And I've actually used this thing. This thing is stout. It's good material that they make it out of. It's very, very stiff. And you need something very, very stiff to get good, stable footage. And I've actually, when you strap this to the tree, it is solid. And I have actually used this. I probably shouldn't have used it this way, but getting into a tree stand, if I missed a step and I had this up, or getting down out of a tree and I've left this overnight in a tree that I'm going to hunt the next morning, I'll actually grab onto this and use this as a step or use it as a handle to be able to get in and out of the tree. As far as lighting and what I use recovery at dark or anything, of course I have my headlamps, but I have this light here. It runs off a Sony battery, the large Sony batteries, and it got it to where it can hook up to a shoe mount on my small cage rig. I'll put that on my camera, and whenever I turn this thing on, I mean, it is bright. It comes with a bunch of different lens cover or light covers and everything that I can put on there, blue, red, whatever, but I just keep the clear on there. So whenever I'm doing any intros after I shoot a deer, or while I'm doing tracking or anything, as well as my headlamps, I'll have this light right here to be able to get good footage and not grainy footage whenever I'm doing recoveries, dragouts, or anything like that. So that's all the equipment that I use and take into the woods. I don't like to make a big footprint when I go in there. I like to be small and compact with still having the ability to get awesome footage.